Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Hi, Anu. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Hey, Kevin. Okay, so I I think we may not have enough for a whole lot today, but let's just get started, I guess. Um, I once I saw Quinn joining, and I added another item to my list, Kevin, which was the planning of the biometrics workshop. And I don't know, I haven't personally done anything about it, so I just wanted to know. We'll get to that topic also today, is what I'm hoping.
Yeah, I think the answer to that relies on Shahab, and he hasn't replied to the emails that Quinn sent or I sent. So I
Yeah,
don't think
what I said.
any of us have much data at this point.
Okay, I assumed he'd have a little more time now, but maybe, yeah, we'll have to figure out where things are with him. So this week, I think a lot of people were at well, I wouldn't say a lot, maybe some people were at the ChipCon uh, 25 conference. It was in the Bay Area. Um, I wasn't able to attend the whole thing. I had some family issues. I had to come back sooner than expected, and I wasn't able to attend the HIR workshop either. Um, I think the couple of things that struck me, one was I heard hearsays that people who'd attended the conference previous years felt that there were fewer people. So it was actually a pretty small, quite an intimate conference, which, in my opinion, sort of works in our benefit in terms of being able to meet people easier and to actually listen to talks, unlike standing room only or things like that, which have happened at big conferences like the ECTC, where when TSMC has the room, it's usually just standing room and you can barely breathe. This was a lot easier. I thought the quality of the talks were very good. We had a whole afternoon session, mix and match. There was some OCP, some non-OCP, and I was really appreciative that we had Jawad and Kevin talk about the two aspects of what we've done, which was the CDX JEP 30 standard and the Bow extension to use with memory. I think those are very significant pieces. We've gone really far in addressing, and especially with the memory, we'll have that out sooner than later. We had a really good talk with AMD, and Rob Pelt, thank you for having Ahmed come in. There was quite a few people who actually reached out to me asking if they could get the presentation. So I do need to check with Ahmed to make sure he's good with that.
Yeah, we should be able to get it to you. I'll talk to Ahmad, but
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did a great job, and it was interesting because a lot of comments were, for the first time, people have listened to how the whole stack works, and the concept that you guys have of your anchor, and how the management services will be distributed with each of those. So I think it went across really well, being defined for the first time. So really appreciate it. And then we had this really interesting. It was what I wanted to call a fireside chat between Amy from Semensis, who does cost modeling. Her company, basically, she does cost modeling for people, very detailed, layer by layer cost modeling for assembly processes. And Samsung, Kevin Yee, who a number of you may know, a very active participant of the OCP. And I was sort of the customer asking questions about how does one go about thinking of when you disaggregate, what are the pieces to keep in mind? Once you make a decision and go down that path, it's very hard to retrack and reverse course, because you put a lot of time and effort into it. So make sure you do enough amount of analysis up front, including cost, to make sure you've got. And I think that was a good format too. And then we had Durgesh talk about our concept here for why we're trying to address systems. So sort of, in conjunction with what Ahmed presented, Durgesh did a great job of sharing, real world practical issues you face, which he faced as he was starting his project, and how, that came to the OCP, and we have a bunch of people who are willing to address it at this point. So I got some really good feedback. So I appreciate, thank you, Durgesh. Thank you, everyone who was willing to participate. And I know it's a pain in the rear to make slides and get the formats right and everything. And I do appreciate the effort. And hopefully with every time we do it, it gets a little bit easier for us. As far as other sessions, I think some of the sessions were pretty interesting. The keynote in the morning, I don't know how many of you attended the Tuesday keynote by Mario Morales. I think he's is he an analyst? I don't know, but he was talking about the spend, the tariffs, and some pretty interesting data points. I think things that most people don't say, I've never heard them say in public, were talked about in terms of what the impact of tariffs, and sort of plan for more than the next 3 years, because things change after 3 years, type of recommendations, and the growths in the different sectors, especially targeting, of course, the AI growth, humongous growth for a number of companies in that area. Memory, of course, with the HBM guys. That was interesting. Then the talks from Bessie, which was more talking about the hybrid bond machines. I thought that was interesting. I, of course, wanted to ask him how much one of those machines cost, but I didn't, because I'm sure it was some staggering amount of money. But they're looking to do incredibly small hybrid bonds, and of course, questions about the reliability and the testability and all of that came up, and they were like, yeah, we got lots of problems, and we're going to slowly chip away and try to solve all of them. But that is the direction the world is going in, with the requirements of the compute world, the data center world, and where the large hyperscalers, the direction the hyperscalers want to go in. It's a good talk I attended by Amcor, Mike Kelly, and then Arvind from IBM, who often joins us. Pretty interesting talk he gave on IBM's take on it. I think we might actually get him to share that at one of our meetings here. So I'm going to stop here and ask others who were there to throw in their thoughts and see what they got from there. If John Schalf had been here, it would have been great, because he was part of the HIR, but on the first day, but I think John's busy today. Come on, guys. There were people there.
Indeed, yes. I thought it was, as you said, I thought it was quite good. And some of the things both AMD's talk and the cost modeling, I had not seen some of that before, so it was quite good.
Yeah, because I think sometimes you go to these conferences and you feel like you've heard the same thing over and over. And I at least tend to just check out mentally when that happens. I felt this one was a lot more engaging, not just, I'm not just talking about our session, but everything else too.
Yeah. A number of both, I would say BOFI, but also other standards are struggling with some of the issues that were raised by the AMD presentation. The PHY itself is not responsible for example, power interrupt. We have to do something right now stuff. We talk about it quite a bit in other groups. Just how do we handle that? How do we handle redundancy to ensure something like automotive can work well, and all that can be done with any of the five standards, but none of it's described in any of the five standards as how one might do it. And so, because it's not a PHI issue, it's a chip level, SoC level issue, and that's why it's not really discussed very often. So I thought it was
Yeah.
well presented.
Yeah, agreed. Absolutely. I think it opened up a lot of eyes because there was a lot of, oh, really? Okay. We've got to think
So
of all this too.
kind of related, but you asked earlier about the slides. The conference organizers also reached out and asked for all the slides that can be posted. So she's already contacted, I'm sure, AMD. She's contacted me, and
Oh, okay.
I
So,
sent you a note yesterday because I realized this week that some of the links are not operable because OCP has moved stuff around.
yeah, I know. I
The
saw your
link layer
note.
spec and the PHI spec are now in a different location. So I sent you an updated deck, and it'd be great to get that to the conference organizer. I'll show what I show today will be accurate.
Okay, got it.
It's today, unless it moves again. But that's the problem
Yeah.
with hard-coded links.
Yep, I definitely appreciate it. You're at least keeping us honest because I don't think any of us actually click on those links. So it's good to
No,
know that they don't
but if
exist.
they get posted, somebody will. So, anyways,
Yeah, I know.
I send it to you, and I'm hoping you or Jawad will send an updated one to the conference organizer because our deck was combined.
Will do.
He's not. I don't see him here today, so I'll leave that to you guys.
Yeah, will
Thanks.
do. Thank you, Kevin. Anyone else? Jawad, you were at the conference. I think Durkesh was there.
Yeah, so here are some things that got my attention. I think the content was pretty amazing. The choice of the conference date was pretty poor. It just collided with July 4th weekend. That's kind of strange. Um, but overall, the talk that I thought was pretty interesting is from the one from Synopsys, where they were describing a lot of the issues related to chiplets and design automation, and they described their business model of how they are delivering these solutions, and that is through their place and route tool. So the place and route tool is quite prevalent in the industry, and they plan to deal with thermal floor planning issues, as well as they described how they do metric-based routing now. Previously with digital routing was just really just, connect from point A to point B, and then you will run a static time analysis, and that will just do everything. Now you have to start worrying about signal integrities and other issues. So they are taking care of signal integrity as part of their routing tool that they are offering. They didn't have a good answer for the power integrity though. So see, and the claim was that this particular implementation is already shipping, is in particular for hybrid bonded products, which is totally understandable because that's where the number of IOs just suddenly goes through the roof, right? And so I thought that that was quite interesting. Uh, the conference main theme and all the presenters in the conference or the exhibitors in the conference, they primarily are manufacturers or vendors of manufacturers on the packaging side of things. So it was useful to figure out, uh, where the what kind of businesses are being done in this particular area, and seems there is a healthy amount in medical devices and some of the mill aero applications. That's where multi-die designs are being done, and quite a bit of the manufacturing is being sourced from United States. So so just talking to different suppliers was quite revealing. In particular, was quite impressive to see IBM's. IBM had some large size packages on display, and they were claiming that they could offer the performance and the routability of a silicon interposer, but using a different type of interposer. So that technology seemed quite interesting, and they were also claiming that some of the newer technologies are on the horizon, and that's, in my opinion, kind of like a canary answer that basically tells us that there is a lot of demand for side by side type of implementation still, uh, uh, which is historically called 2.5D. So overall, I walked away. I just went there for only 2 days. Um, the other interesting thing was they have now started a Silicon Valley chapter of IMAPS, which was defunct for quite some time. So that one was another interesting one, that some of these things are coming back to Silicon Valley and overall to United States, and which means we got to start thinking more deeply about all of these problem sets and the opportunities. So those were my views, Anu, that I walked away with. I did try my best to recruit folks for the open chiplet economy. So I did give them a pretty big overview of OCP and open chiplet economy and how we operate as a group of volunteers and how much progress we have made in the last 5-6 years. So hopefully we'll get some folks on board based off of that. Yep.
Yep, I sincerely hope so too. But thank you, Jawad. Appreciate it. Anyone else who was there? Okay, yeah, I think the timing of the conference wasn't great given it's right after the July 4th weekend, but I don't know, maybe they'll figure out next year to do it differently. I've never attended an IMAPS conference before because they asked me to organize a session. I showed up and, we got a lot of good talks in there. That was the best part of it all. But maybe if it had been a week later, it would have been better. I do sometimes feel there's so many conferences. It gets hard for people to actually get any work done if we were to actually show up to all these conferences. So there is some flip side. It's great to go there and meet people and talk about the work being done, but I think maybe some of it is a little bit over the top. So okay, thank you very much, everyone. So item number 1 done. 2, Quinn, apologies to you for not having moved at all on the die-to-die 5 metrics workshop. I do need to try to get a hold of Shahab. I will work on that actively next week, and really sorry to, put a date out there and have you get all the permission and done and then not move at all. But like, yeah, my
Yeah,
apologies for that.
I understand. We do need to decide very quickly, though, if it's happening or not. So
Yeah, agreed. So my job next week is to try to get a hold of Shahab and see if that still works for him. because he is the key to getting this done and organizing it. So let me try and follow that up next week. Thank you for your patience. Okay, so next item was anyone who has updates. I maybe folks sent me email, but this last week's been totally crazy hectic for me. I don't know. I know that Kevin has
Yeah,
an update, and I know that probably Durgesh and Rob have one too. So let's start with those two. And I know Patricia said next Friday. Anyone else who has verbal update too, I'm happy to listen to that. If you've just got problems and you want to talk about it, this is the right place to bring it up. So Javad and I can maybe try and do something about it. So whoever wants to go first, all power to you.
well, I'm happy to, if that works for you.
Please go ahead.
Let's see if I can share. Is that coming through?
Yeah.
Okay, dokie. This is the BoFi workstream. I saw Kosh at least at the beginning, so I think he's here. You're welcome to chime in. Looks like Elad is not. He's our leader, but these are some slides that we used with this group last quarter. So I'll just touch on a few of these points. I think most people know what the bunch of wires phi is, but it's one of the work streams under the open chiplet economy. We already have a couple of versions of the spec that's released. The 2.0 is the most current one. I'll show a link to that later. There's also a link layer work group, which is separate. So I'm just talking about the phi group right now. The focus of the phi working group for the last year has been on what we call 2.1, or there are extensions that define additional categories with enablement for that. One is supposed to be optical. The other was another was both Flexi, which Kosh is spearheading. The optical was initially initiated by Shab, and Bow Memory, which I've been doing a good amount of work on with inputs from a number of other members on the committee. And I would say our Q2 focus has, we haven't even discussed optical, and we've had a few meetings on Flexi, and I would say the majority of the work of the group discussions has been on drafts of the spec for memory. There are also actually the last 2 or 3 meetings have been some collaborative discussions with the systems work group on determining parameters that are required for interoperability. So I think we'll see more from that in the future. The update today, I just wanted to show this slide is Flexi. I didn't update this at all. And Kosh, I didn't hear from you. So if you were there, is there anything you wanted to add about
No,
Flexi?
we haven't done much work on this, as you know.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it is sort of just there, and then as we get some traction or I have more time available, then we'll come back to this
Right.
a little
It's
bit later. Yeah,
it's the volunteer part of the of it, but it is there was quite a bit of work in Q4 and Q1, but yeah, not too much last quarter. So last quarter was focused on memory more. Just as a reminder, the way the spec is written, there's 3 use cases that are detailed. One is a memory controller chiplet, in which it's just really a logic to logic interface. The other 2 are direct attached memory cases. One's a memory chiplet that's a narrow interface with a relatively low bandwidth requirement. Think of it something like an LPDDR if it were directly attached, and then a very, very high bandwidth that requires multiple slices deep into the PHY, or something like an HBM. And there are reference layouts and talked on clocking, initialization, all that is covered in the spec. It's written as an addendum
Hey, Kevin.
because lots of it, there's no change at all. Yes, sir.
Hey, Kevin, this is Raghu. A
Mhm.
question in this HPM, the last example 3 HPM, do you go to like HPM 2E, 3, and 4? Is there any kind of guidance out there on which HPMs this can connect to?
That's a good question. The bandwidth target is HBM4.
Okay.
There's no discussion of if you wanted to connect to HBM3, you need obviously half the bandwidth. The way HBM3 works, it's half the bandwidth and half the pins because it's the same data rate. So that is an example could easily be developed for that, but that was not part of the scope. It's just focused on HBM4.
Okay. No, and also my question, again, follow-on question is that, I mean, besides the bandwidth, which is, I think, clearly targeted for HBM4, there may be other aspects of, I don't know, thermal or electrical or signal integrity that I'm not familiar with that say, hey, to running this on HBM4 versus 3 can be different, right? So is there any aspects of that we need to worry about besides the bandwidth?
So no, let's take those in order. Signal integrity. So the reason HBM4 is a direct extension of 3, everything about it traces and signaling the data rates and everything are identical. It's just two KO instead of 1 KO. So HBM3 isn't an easier signal integrity problem. It's identical. It's just you got a lot more. You have twice as many signals, twice as many channels, twice as many signals. So that would be
HBM4 in HBM4 versus HBM3, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So if
Okay.
a standard package version, there's no discussion about that because actually that leads to the next page. So for example, the timing specifications, the signal definitions and signal and integrity, all the definitions of eye width and height and everything are the same in Bow memory as they are in Bow. So we didn't address any of that because we didn't change any of that when we did this memory, and that's why we wrote it as an addendum. We refer to a whole bunch of chapters and say there's no change in those chapters, and where we made changes, particularly to allowing dynamic bidirectional instead of fixed unidirectional. That's in some of the signal depth. So these are the chapters where there were changes. It's just a handful. And that's why it's written in addendum. So it's kind of, you read the Bow memory together with the Bow 2.0 spec to look at those problems and those questions.
Okay. Are these backward compatible? Sorry, I just is that so? If you want to run this on HBM3, let's say it's more available or lower at a lower cost point, are these backward compatible to prior HBMs?
I'm not sure I understand that question. So I'll see if I have an example of that. So so these are all examples of using a bunch of wires interface for memory.
Correct. Yes.
There's no memory today that has a bunch of wires interface or any die-to-die interface because die-to-die isn't particularly suitable for a direct memory connection. So it's not compatible in the sense that you can't take an off-the-shelf existing device and use them. You would need to have a memory device built with Bow integrated into it in order for your ASIC to integrate that interface and talk to them. So I guess the answer is no
Okay.
to your question, if that's I understand your question.
No, it's okay. I mean, I think I got enough. Maybe I'll take it offline. So we
Right.
can catch up. Thanks for the answers.
Well, this is like everything we do in OCP, it's all available on our Google Docs, and I'll show you the link in a second. So you can read it right now if you want. But the status is there's like an 0.9 draft. It's been submitted to OCP as a contribution So we've started that process. It has not been published yet as an official spec, so it's not something you can go to the OCP site and download yet. But we're hoping for that soon, and definitely counting on it to happen before OCP Global Summit. This is just the front page of it, and I'm again emphasizing it's an addendum to the spec, not an entirely separate contribution. And just, come join us. That's the call to action. These are now the correct links. So this is the link to all of our working groups. This is the new link layer link. It's now up on the OCP site, not GitHub, and the Bo 2.05 spec, same deal. So you can get the spec there, and you can get the this 0.9 Bo memory working draft I talked about on Google Docs for the time being, but it'll eventually have an OCP link just like that. That's all I had today for updates. Questions?
Thanks, Kevin.
You bet.
Appreciate it. I know we've got the system workstream group. Maybe Rob, you want to go ahead next?
Yeah.
Unless-
Yeah, I can
thank
go
you.
ahead and present. Yeah. Get the screen up here. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, good. So we don't have as comprehensive of an update. We've only been going for a couple months, I'll say. We've gotten some good work going, but we don't have any specific output yet. Lots of things have been going on, people working on documents. But just to give people an idea, what we're trying to do is really drive interoperability between chiplets above the PHY level, right? This is kind of all the things that if folks saw Ahmad's presentation at ChipCon, it was like these are all the problems, and we have plenty of these problems when we do things internally, and so when you open it up to an ecosystem, obviously you have to have standards. So what we're trying to do is say, okay, we kind of broke it down into topics that are certainly much higher level than the PHY or the link layer or anything else that a lot of other folks are working on. What we're trying to do is be somewhat agnostic to all that as much as we can, and then sort of build on top of things so you can really say, hey, I can pull in a chiplet, I can understand what its parameters are, and I can go ahead and use it. I don't have to special purpose build anything on my main die or ask for changes to the vendor for anything, right? We really want this to be like, can we get it to a plug and play type of situation? So the main things that we're looking at is the silicon system architecture. So that is kind of the, sort of the stack. What does the stack look like that we would do to do this? So that would include like, how do we talk to things? How do we discover things? That kind of information. Then of course security, big deal. So security compatibility is going to be an interesting way to try to understand how that works across the industry. Power efficiency. So this is really about how do we optimize power in the SoC when you put in these chiplets that might be from different vendors or different ideas about power. So some work has started on that. Performance optimization, some work has started on that as well. And that's really about the first step is really what kinds of things will we need from a chiplet to report that you could go in and then optimize. So some of this, so there's this is a very broad topic for performance optimization, but the first place to start is, well, what would I need to understand about a chiplet's running system to know if it's actually optimally performing, or before I can even bother with what tweaks would I ask it to make. And then our final outcome is we want this checklist. So Itai, I don't think he's on, has been working on this with some of the other folks. There's already CDX that has some compatibility things. We think something similar like that is for these services and other capabilities that you need to know if they're compatible. So having a good framework for checking, understanding parameters well before you even bother getting a chiplet model or anything in. Just having some machine readable format that you can compare things is, I think, is important. Any questions on that? So that's kind of how we're tackling the problem, and we're just getting started on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, no, this is great. And like you said, Itai is already trying to connect with the Phi group and the link layer group, and he isn't able to make the call today, but I think that might be given like a lot of people show up at this meeting, we can try to make sure that all of the workstream leads from the others come in too. So we've got a good way of communicating across the work streams as to what's significant in terms of things being set or configured in one have an impact on the other through the stack. So I think that work is really great because it connects all the
Yeah, I think that's one of the things our group does is I think is going to end up connecting a lot of dots because at some point, when you're trying to abstract this stuff, you have to understand, you have to understand all the pieces fit together.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And then Rob Ahmad came to me and said he had talked to Alex, and there was more he'd like to work with the OCP and do, and so we've decided.
Yeah, I've been exchanging emails with Ahmad, so we'll figure out how to plug him in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. Appreciate the update. Any questions for Rob?
One question for Rob. Hey, this is Raghu.
Hi.
Hey, Rob, I think the way you say it, like the final outcome is a checklist to make chiplet interoperable. I think you also use the word like static check or something. Would that be should that be before? Then you say, hey, I need to do the checklist first, and then I need to do all the other stuff like silicon architecture, security, power efficiency, and all that.
Well, we have to know what those parameters are before we can put them in a checklist, I guess is what we're saying. So we have to discover what we'd want these to be, and then what are the options, and then we could put them into a checklist. So some of this, like some of the work I started was really like breaking down what are the use cases for chiplets, so we can at least bucket them and have profiles, understand data flows and services and things like that. Then we can start breaking it down more. But until we understand all the options, we can't make a checklist. Does that make sense?
Okay, no, that's good enough for now. I think got a sense of it. Thanks.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Thanks, Rob.
Okay. Sure, no problem.
Anyone else? I see a couple of other work leads, but I don't want to put you on the spot if this is not a good time to provide even just a verbal update.
Hey, Anu?
I can provide
Hey, David.
I can provide you with a quick verbal update. I don't have a slide since.
Perfect.
So we basically are continuing work in two directions. One is the SAPI design kit to describe functionality and the electricals of die-to-die files. The way we're thinking about it is probably we'll be able to cover both serial and parallel, right? Just from electrical point of view. And then in discussion with other work streams, we talked about the parameters. What are the parameters that kind of define a compatibility between interfaces? So I think SAPI kit will kind of capture some portion of that. Right, we at least for the SAPI kit, we have to describe the basic capability of the file in order for simulations to run. So SAPI kit may come loaded with a little bit extra information that can be reused for other purposes. And then yesterday, actually, we had the other area we are working on is the test design kit 2.0. That's very broad area that touches a lot of things, right? Because there is the main issue right now is the test insertion for a chiplet system is possible today, but it's all manual work. Trying to stitch flows, right? Basically, trying to stitch chiplets that had test inserted by different flows and different vendors. So there's a lot of manual work, and as far as I understand it, there is no standard workflow about how it should be done. It depends who is doing it and what exactly you're trying to achieve. So that's one complication in TEDZENKit 2.0, right? Once that's clarified a little bit, and the discussions happening outside of OCP, because anyway, DFT is not in the realm of capability of OCP to define, right? IEEE does that, and DFT vendors would do that. But once we have a little bit more clarity about, okay, what data is necessary to support automated DFT flow for chiplet systems, we'll capture that in CDXML. So I expect the discussion about the TEDZEN kit to take a little bit longer than SAPI kit. SAPI kit, we are kind of there. I think we've gathered a lot of information about parameters, electricals, loss targets, and so on, that we can actually start work on putting it in a file format. Yeah, that's my quick update.
Appreciate it. Any questions for David? Thank you, David. Raghu, you were starting to say something.
Yeah, no, thanks, Anu. Do you want that we have a follow-up to go and talk to Cliff to see if we can get some support? I think Cliff said he's open to catching up offline. Do you want to cover it now, or should we just cover it in the next business workstream meeting that we have sometime on?
This is regarding the resources, or this is regarding, I guess, asking for support, right?
Yeah. This is just basically amplification of the request for participation and call for participation that we want to gauge what the industry support is for this, right? That virtual prototyping framework.
Right. Did we actually set up a meeting with Cliff, or are we?
No. This
I
is
suppose-
this was pending for, like, say, next week, right? Because he just said build after July 4th. So
Yeah. Okay.
right. So this week I know would be crazy for all of us. So I just thought this might be a good time to at least start, and maybe if we can find some time with him. Definitely need your kind of help in just coordinating with him and setting up maybe a one-off meeting with him.
Yeah. I'll try to do that. It's everybody's very busy, especially because well, apparently today is the deadline for Jawad and me to finalize the talks for the global summit, and we have almost double number of talks as slots. So we're trying to consolidate. So we might try to combine things. So a little bit crazy busy, Raghu. I'll reach out to Cliff. I did forward you what who DJ connected us with, and I'm going to leave you and George to do.
No, that's, I think, yeah, I mean, it depends on, we are actually, the expectation is that we are trying to ask for resources from the OCP community, right? Which includes, let's say, hyperscalers.
Yeah.
And so they have vested interest in seeing OCP succeed. I'm not sure about I don't know where the other folks that DJ has connected us with.
Yeah,
Whether these guys
I
are
don't
like
know.
interested in, I mean, I'm not sure if they charge money, I'm not sure even have the budget to go do that, right?
I've made it clear that no money is
Yeah.
changing hands.
So
It's out of kindness of their heart, or it doesn't happen. So
yeah, exactly. So I don't know. Maybe when we talk to Cliff, we can even bring that up. It's just like a 5-minute, 2-minute thing. Hey, can we get some resources? They don't feel kind of, the community feels that they should believe that hyperscalers contributes one server with one GPU. That's all you're asking, right? Not too much, right? And so for some work that we are doing for the goodness of all. Anyway, so that's something that we can. So what do you want to do? So I mean, we can skip this meeting, that business meeting because
Yeah.
since you're busy, what we can do is all I think is required is to just set up some time, maybe next week or 2 weeks from
Yeah.
now, with
Let me
just a
message Chris and
30-minute
ask him. Yeah.
30-minute slot, and then not even 20-minute slot should be enough too. So we can do that.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks, Raghu.
Thanks, Anu.
Here we go.
Yes.
So the virtual prototyping framework came up yesterday in CDX when we were discussing the test instruction flow, and naturally, right, the question is, can we virtually prototype test insertion? So, and Siemens mentioned that they have a some tool and capability that can do something like this. I'm not sure. They mentioned that the DAC they had a car that's running the entire hardware and the software on it, right? Kind of in a virtual environment.
Okay.
I'm wondering, have you looked at what Siemens can do? Have you reached out to Siemens?
No, good question. Exactly. I mean, I am trying hard to see how I can broaden up the participation. So I'm not doing one-on-one reach out to separate companies, right? Like so I know Siemens, Cadence, uh, Synopsys, maybe a few more companies all have some capabilities, and that's what I'm trying to do out here. How do I kind of issue a call to participate
Mhm.
in a
Okay,
more formal way that will get hopefully a good response. If not, we'll have to go figure out what that means. But other than that, I'm trying very hard not to just do this one-on-one reach outs, so that I
right.
don't kind
Okay,
of, because I think it'll depend on, because I don't have the brand name to say, hey, I'm reaching out to them, and like, they're like, okay, who's this guy, right? So I'm trying to see if I can go through the OCP umbrella.
yeah, okay,
Thanks for that. I mean, at some point, once if I'm able to get this through the OCP kind of um, OCP, what I want to say is that OCP letterhead, simple way to put it, right? Through some newsletters and all that, or some call for participation, then clearly if you can give me those names of the Siemens group, the specific group, because even within the Siemens, there'll be specific groups that are interested in doing some of these things, and we can do a separate, hey, follow up and say, we are doing this in OCP, this is the official call for action, call for participation. Can you please participate? And we can send a kind of more targeted invitation to those
right.
guys. I'll really
Okay,
appreciate if you can send me the names at
sure,
some point. I'll reach out to you, David, at some when we are
sure,
ready to do that.
sure.
Thanks, Raghu. Thanks, David. If there are no other updates, then Javad, I think we are done for the day.
Sounds good.
And then Javad, if you and I have to talk again about the plan for the global summit, just text me.
Yeah, I think today is probably the last day for anyone to propose participation in Innovation Village, I think. So that's one pending item. If anybody is interested, please reach out to one of us. So that's the big one where everybody here has a opportunity, which is usually we're very selective for when folks from outside ask us.
Oh, sounds good. Thanks, everyone. Have a good weekend.